I'm going to talk to you about my life as a volunteer. One thing I'm not going to talk about is my abduction experiences. I'm not going to tell that story. I've told that a lot. Most of you, hopefully, have already seen or heard the video on ufohub and some of the other places. So I didn't want to rehash that. And when I originally agreed to do this talk, Adnan wanted a title and a description for the talk. And I usually don't know what I'm going to say until right before I go to the conference. And sometimes I don't know until I step up on the stage. That was the way I always did it before when I was doing more of these lectures. So I gave him a title that I thought was going to work, which is The Mission, My Life as a Light Warrior. I thought I was going to talk about what I've been through since my book came out. My book came out in 2012. And since that time, it's been interesting, to say the least. My life is not anything like I would have expected it to be. There's been a lot of challenges. So I was going to talk about that, but I just don't want to talk about negativity. There's enough of that going on in the world out there. I preferred to try to stay on something positive. So the title is called The Mission, My Life as a Light Warrior. And I'm just going to tell you kind of stories from my life is what I'm going to do that highlight and show what it's like to be a volunteer. Because a lot of people, they hear the term volunteer or light worker or light warrior or starseed, all those different terms that we use, but we don't really understand what it means to possibly be a light worker or a volunteer. Excuse me, I'm going to have to do this quite often, I think, here. So I'm just going to tell stories that kind of emphasize why a light worker's life might be a little bit different than the norm. The title is from a day when I was struggling with things in my life, and I was complaining. And for those of you who know me, you know that I refer to my guys. I work with 3 different ET groups. My whole life I've had contact with them. And when I talk about my guys, I'm usually referring to the main guy, which is someone that I call Da, D-A, Da. I gave him that name when I was a little girl. And he's the one I mainly communicate with. And there's going to be a lot of weirdness. Just going to warn you, my stories are going to have a lot of components that are weird and strange. So if this is your first time hearing me speak, it might push some buttons, or it might, because I'm going to talk a lot about talking to people that aren't there, that you can't see. So, either you can believe it or you don't. So that's my disclaimer here. So I'm okay if you don't believe it, but that's my life. So I talk to Da sometimes when I feel his presence around me, and this one day I was complaining because I wasn't feeling good, and I haven't felt good for a long time. And I said, I'm just kind of tired of it. And I said something like to the effect, this is hard. This is not what I thought it was going to be. This is being a light worker thing. It's just not what I thought expected it to be like. And I heard Da go, he goes, yeah, he said, what is that? What is this you're unhappy with or something? And I said, being a light worker. I said, it's hard. I said like that, and he went, ha, which he's never done that before. I thought that was really cute that he went, ha. He's done that now. He did it one other time since then. I can't remember when, but he went, ha. And he goes, light worker. He said, you are a light warrior. Make no mistake about it, Sherry. He said, this is a battle between light and dark. And you, dear, are on the front line. And I wanted to give a smart-ass answer to that. I wanted to say to him, would you look at me? Look at me. Do I look like I belong on the front line? But I didn't. I just got quiet because the truth is that I knew that what he said was absolutely true. I had been and I am on the front line. There is a battle going on between light and darkness. Those of us who are volunteers or light workers, starseeds, whatever label you attach to yourself or to your mission, you know that. And there's a lot of us, millions of us. I certainly am not special to be here calling myself a volunteer. I don't feel special, quite the contrary. So don't think that that's what I'm trying to do. I'm just saying that this is very real. What's going on the planet is very real. We are well into it, and it has been a battle between light and dark. The light is and will win, but it is a battle. So it's going to be, my talk is going to center around that. And now I have to remember which way to go here. Aha. Volunteer is what I am. Dolores Cannon coined that phrase, and that's exactly correct. I referred to myself as a participant in a program prior to hearing her term volunteer, and I switched from that to calling myself a volunteer. So I came here freely, as millions did, as volunteers to come on to planet Earth at this time to help raise the frequency so that what I refer to as the native human Earth souls, that's what I call them. The native human Earth souls are those who, in my opinion, have been here on the recycling of the whole program that was set up on the planet to keep the souls of the planet Earth from ascending, which was their natural right to do. Instead, you've been trapped here, and with that whole game of karma, and not allowed to go up the ladder of life, as we call it. So we came in to be of assistance so that the planet could ascend, so the souls could get out of that trap. So it's kind of like it's not a mission to save. There's no saving. The only one who can save you is yourself. And you really don't even need saving, but it's not right that you be trapped in that cycle. So it's like a liberation we came in here to do, to liberate the planet, liberate the souls, and break the back of the dark ones who had control of this planet. So as a volunteer coming in, those of us who are volunteers, we don't have to, we have to play by the rules of the planet, which is that we come in behind the veil of non-remembrance, so we don't remember who we are, where we come from. That's the whole setup on planet Earth, is that you come here to forget who you are and experience separation. So that's the game that was originally put in place here. And so you are separate from your creator, which means you are separate from yourself. As a volunteer, we come in and most of us don't remember who we are. I've met a few volunteers who came in and actually brought with them the memory of who they are. And that might have been a pretty cool thing to do, but I myself didn't want to do it. I remember very clearly before I came here that I decided that I wanted to experience a human life as a human. I didn't want to come in and remember who I was. I wanted to have the whole human experience because, like a lot of your cosmic cousins who are out there, I was one of them observing the Earth and very intrigued by the humans on planet Earth. Very intrigued. I wanted to know, why do they do what they do? Why do they make the decisions they make? Because as I observed the planet, it was baffling to us. I remember being baffled as to why the humans did not claim their power and just not follow the control system that was here. I didn't understand why they didn't tap into who they were, because everyone knows that the Earth humans are powerful beings, except it seems that the Earth humans didn't know that. But we didn't know why. I couldn't figure it out. And I had visited the planet as a human, and had walked among the humans and totally intrigued by them. The Earth humans are known as fascinating creatures because they have resilience. That's what I think about them. They have resilience. They get knocked down and they just keep coming back. They get up over and over again and they come back. They're totally adventuresome and creative and intelligent, and they are the resilience is what amazed me the most. And I just wanted to know what made them tick. I was frustrated with them too, because I did not like the way they treated their planet in general. Once you're here, you see it altogether different. You realize the control and the domination that's there, and how you are totally brainwashed from the time you come onto the planet. You're born onto the planet, and right away the control system kicks in, and you are kept in distraction. So you don't have time to remember who you are. You don't have time to think about it. You're busy trying to make money and to feed your family and do all the things that you do in the 3D life. That was never intended to be the way that it was on the planet, but that's how it evolved. So once you're here, you see it from a different perspective, and you see how easy it is to forget your divinity. And I can say that happened with me. Coming in, I fell into the whole trap of needing to make money and get ahead, and you forget your connection to Source. The main thing that I noticed when I came here is the separation. It manifests in me as such homesickness, just very homesick, because you're cut off from your Creator, and you're cut off from your own divine self. And I talked to another volunteer who said that she totally related to that, but then she said, the way I always put it, Sherry, is that I always felt like there was somebody missing from my life. There's somebody who's supposed to be right here with me, who I love intensely and who loves me. And I don't know where they are, they're gone. And every day I miss them. And I said, that's a better description than homesick, because that is how it is for me. Every morning of every day of my life, I have woken up, and I always think to myself, who's missing? There's someone missing. I do it even now, even though I know the answer to it, my thoughts still go there. When you're in this state of separation, when you're cut off from your Creator, it is the most painful, I think, lonely experience a soul can have. So my heart breaks for the Earth humans who have been stuck here on that recycling thing for so long, because you're bound to forget the truth of who you are, which is why it's been such a task to try to awaken the Earth humans, because they don't even know they're asleep. And that's really tough. So coming in as a volunteer, there were some things that had to be a little bit different about my situation, and those of us who came in for the one and only time on the planet. For me, this is my first time here as an incarnated human, and that's true of most of us who are volunteers. So I came in and I don't have any karma. I didn't bring in any karma. And karma is part of the trap. And I've said this in other lectures, and I'm not going to go into it a lot, but karma has been used against you. Karma exists in its purest sense. What it is simply energy that needs to be balanced. And so the way the controllers used it against you was to say that if you hurt someone, and I always use the example, if you kill somebody in this life, then after you die, you go, it's pointed out to you that, that you have to come back and pay for that karma. So you come back to balance that karma, and what happens to you is, supposedly you get killed or whatever. However, and that's not how you balance karma. That doesn't even make sense if you think about it. What about the person who kills you then? It just perpetuates it, which is really part of the whole program. So karma is about balancing energy. And the way that you balance energy is to neutralize it. And you neutralize it by unconditional love and forgiveness without judgment. You realize, you see it for what it is. I'm not saying that killing somebody is not bad. I'm just saying that on this planet, this is a planet of projection and perception. It's a planet that is an illusion. And so there is no out there. So we're playing a game, much like a video game. And so it's wrong to kill somebody, but to balance the energy is by looking at it, recognizing that what you did was not right, and forgiving yourself for doing what you did, and loving yourself. And that's how you balance karma. Neutral is what you want to do. The pendulum swings back and forth. You don't want it on the positive or the negative. You want it neutral in the middle. So I came in with no karma, so I didn't have to deal with that. And the second thing is, when I came in, I planned my life as a volunteer. I was given certain tasks that I was supposed to do. There were certain things in what's called the mission. And the mission is everything to my guys, the ones that I'm in contact with. Everything comes down to the mission. The mission comes first. So there's no free will for me. I might get to pick what I want for dinner, but other than that, my life went very specifically according to a plan that was laid out, and I had no deviation from that, none. And free will is another one of those things that on planet Earth, I'm amused by it because there are a lot of people who believe that free will is a really good thing. And I'm going to try to explain this, just my perception. And again, it doesn't matter if it resonates with you or not, but free will is, well, let's look at the definition here. I looked it up and I was surprised to see this definition. It says freedom of humans to make choices that are not determined by prior causes or by divine intervention. And right there, that's from, I think it's the Merriam Dictionary. I was really surprised to see that because that's absolutely true. If you're a human, you can make a choice and you don't have to consider what the divine in you would choose. So it means you're choosing other than what is in your highest and best interest, and the highest and best interest of all concerned. You're choosing other than what the Creator within you would have you choose. So if you have free will, it means you're choosing from the part of you that is not aligned with the divine. So you've got the divine, which is the truth of who you are, and then you've got what they call the ego, which is your little self, the small self, the side of you that is not aligned with the Creator. Say it's kind of like the devil on one shoulder and the angel on the other. Which one are you going to listen to? If you're going to go with free will, a lot of times you're going to listen to the little devil, and that's why free will is actually a big problem with what went wrong on planet Earth. The human souls who are here collectively asked for free will, and the Creator granted that. It was an experiment to see what would happen if they were given free will. Well, what happened was it just spiraled too much into fear, and so we have the mess on planet Earth that we have by people choosing, using their free will instead of what is their divine guidance would have them do. That's just me. That's the way that I look at it. But anyway, I have no free will. I surrendered that when I came in. Every decision and major decision, everything in my life has been controlled. Either I'm pushed or I just innately know what I'm supposed to do, but mostly I'm just told. All my life, I'm told everything. Who I was supposed to marry and have children with, I was told. All my relationships, I was told. My career, everything was chosen for me. Well, it's not really chosen for me. That would be, the truth of it is it's chosen by my higher self. The one that I refer to as Da is, I believe, an aspect of me on a higher level. And so it's actually my higher self. So when I say I have no free will, I'm in alignment with what's my highest and best interest, and highest and best interest for my mission as a volunteer here. So I freely agreed to that. So we could say I use my free will to not have free will. So I'm going to tell the story about getting the book. And if any of you have read my book or if you're familiar with my story, you know that it was in 2010 that after 20 years, almost 20 years of my guys keeping a low profile in my life, they weren't coming around only once in a while to tweak my body and keep me in good health. Other than that, I had 20 years of being what I want, which was, they granted me 20 years of being as normal a human as I could be. And I really relished that, and those were 20 really great years of my life. But at the end of that, it was 2010, when in the middle of the night, my guys came in, Da came in, and he told me that the planet Earth was now, he had told me about the great Earth changes, and he said that great Earth changes are well underway now, and there's work to be done. And I said, okay. My vacation was over, time to get to work. And he told me I had to write a book, and I said, okay, that I would do that. And I was to write the book about my experiences with them, my contact experiences, abductions as they were called. And I thought, well, I'll write the book, but I don't know what I'm going to say about it. I was mostly unaware. I had some conscious memories, but a lot of my memories were buried. But I said, okay, I'll write the book. And so I interviewed Don Schmidt, who was the investigator on my case, and I prepared to get ready to write a book. And then one day I just thought, why would I do that? Why would I write a book about this and out myself and face all the ridicule and everything that goes along with that? So I put it on the shelf and I decided I'm not writing the book. And I went off to Arizona with my dad for the winter, and while I was down there one day, I just came awake. I don't know, I just came out of darkness, and I was sitting at the table, and I was typing away on my keyboard, and I was writing a book. And I didn't know that's what I was doing. I had never used my computer to just write like that, so I didn't know for sure what I was doing, and I read part of it to see what I was writing, and I saw it was the book, and I said, oh no, I'm not doing this. And I heard his voice, and he said, it is time. He likes to say that, it is time. And I said, I don't care. I said, I'm not writing the book. And he goes, it is time, Sherry. And I said, not doing it. But out of curiosity, I went back. I was on page 3, it turns out, of the beginning of this book, and I read it, and I could see that I was writing things that were buried memories for me. And so I was intrigued by it. I got suckered into it. And so along with them, we wrote the book together. Seems like that makes me weak-minded, but actually, I mean, I was very curious because I got a lot of answers to what had been going on in my life. So I wrote the book, but then, see, I thought I had the last laugh because I went back to Wisconsin and I didn't do anything with the manuscript. I just sat on it because I didn't want to publish the book, get it published. So I was being pushed to send it to a publisher, and I just was ignoring it. But I should have, well, at that point I was pretty new in this, so I didn't really realize I didn't have any say in it. One day I went to get some Reiki, and my guy, Will, always enjoyed when I would come in, because when he would do Reiki on me, the room would fill up with usually my guys, my ETs, and he always got a kick out of that. And afterwards he would always tell me, you know, what he experienced by that. And sometimes there were messages, and it was always pretty interesting for both of us. So this time I went to him, and after the Reiki was over, he was pretty excited, and he said, boy, you'll never guess, Sherry, instead of your ET friends, he said there were a few of them there, but the room was packed. And he said around the table were all angels. And he said there were like 6 angels in there, 6 or 7 angels. He said they're all surrounding the table, which it was not uncommon for me to open my eyes while I was getting Reiki, because I could feel many sets of hands on me often, up to 5 different sets of hands, and I'd always was opening my eyes to see what was going on. And this was one of those times that had happened. And he said, you know, the angels, he said, I acknowledged them all, and I said, before we get started, everyone should introduce themselves. So he went around the table, and he said there was this one impressive angel standing up by my head, and he said, we got to him, and he said he was Gabriel. And Will said, well, you wouldn't happen to be Archangel Gabriel, would you? And he said, in answer, he started to unfurl his wings. And he said, no, that's okay, you don't have to. And he said, Archangel Gabriel came, and he said he has a message for you. And I said, really? That kind of made me nervous, and I was a little bit in awe of that. And I said, what was the message? And he said, well, you wrote a book? And he said, you're supposed to get it published. And I said, what? Are you kidding me? Archangel Gabriel came to tell you that? And he said, yeah, you have to get that book published. You got to get it sent off, and it'll get published, and then you're going to be publicly speaking, and then it will be made into a movie. And I said, no, really? And he said, yeah. He said, I'm just giving you the message. So I didn't know how to feel about it. I was a little bit angry. I didn't want to do it, but I went home and I Googled Archangel Gabriel, and the definition that I found came close to this one, where he's thought to be a messenger of God and regarded as a strong and most powerful angel in the angelic realm. But Gabriel is the angel that works the closest with mankind, making him the patron saint of communication workers. That's the part that impressed me. He's the angel of strength and protection and awaits to help you with communicating. the definition I read went on to say that he assists like in movies and in books and in writing articles, and it was all about communication. And I thought, man, that's pretty interesting. So I did angrily, I guess with some resentment, but I did sit down and I Googled how to get a book published, and I sent the book off to 5 or 6 different publishers. I think 2 of them were out of business, and then I got an acceptance by 3. And so the book ended up getting published, and that's it right there. And it's just a little book. You wouldn't think that it was any big deal. It's not a big deal, but apparently, because the book came through me, there is something about the frequency in the book that does cause the book to end up in the hands of those who are ready to hear the message. It helps to trigger an awakening in them of their experiences to the extent that they are ready to remember their experiences. And as far as the book being made into a movie, that is in the works. We'll see what happens. It's in the pipeline. It's been for a long time, but it's very aggressively now. Just recently, it's supposed to be. There's a manuscript or a screenplay, I guess, being written, and we've got some studios interested. We'll see. I guess if the archangels want it and the ETs want it, and if there's enough power behind them to make it happen, I guess it will happen. We'll see. But for me, the whole takeaway on this experience is if you're here on a mission and you took a vow to perform and complete certain tasks, you'll be held to those vows. Even if you don't want to, and I really did not want to publish this book, and I get emails from people every day thanking me for my courage and my bravery for doing what I'm doing, and I always say, I'm not courageous and I'm not brave. I was shoved into doing this. You know, I volunteered to do it before I came here, before I realized how hard it was going to be. And I have to honor the vow and the promise that I made to do this, to complete this mission. And so I'm doing that. But it probably doesn't make me brave. What it makes me is probably naive. You know, I was naive before I came here and didn't know I kind of bit off too much, I think. The second takeaway from this whole experience is that the ETs and the angelic realm work together. Whitley Strieber, I heard him at Contact in the Desert the last time I was well enough to go to that. He was talking about that same thing. And that definitely proves to me that Archangel Gabriel was there to push me into getting that book published. Means there's communication going on all realms. It's all for the highest and best interest for the planet. That's what they're all working for. People on this planet have no idea what an auspicious time this is and what's really happening. It's huge. There's never been anything happen on this planet that's anywhere near on the level of what's happening now. Not even close to it. Nothing has come close to what's going down. It's very interesting. So I'm going to share another story, and I threw this one in just because I like it. It amuses me, so I hope you enjoy it. But it's kind of a fun. It's one that I have tons of these stories because my life is every day. It's just weirder than hell. So I could just pull out anything from anywhere, you know, and just lots of stories. So this one is one of my favorites. It just happened in the summer of 2017. My guys told me I needed to go to the desert for the winter. They wanted me down in Arizona for the winter. And I thought that sounded really nice because I love spending winters in the desert. But I didn't respond. I just listened to them. And after a couple weeks, they came back in again and said, "You're not making plans. You have to go to the desert for the winter. We want you in the desert for the winter." And I said, "You know, do I have to explain this to you? You know, this is a world of money. And, you know, I lost everything in 2010. I was wiped out financially. And I said, I can't afford to go to the desert. And it takes a lot of money to rent a place. Plus, it means I'll be gone from work. And if I'm gone from work, I don't have the opportunity to make money. And I'm really struggling making a living because, you know what? It turns out that people don't like to do business with people who claim to have, to frolic with ETs. You know, so, yeah, you know, they think you're crazy. So my business is down 80%. I mean, I've never worked as hard as I'm working now. I'm in real estate, and so I make the connection, and I show properties to people, and I go so far as to have them, I just had one recently say, thanks for showing us that property, we love it, we're going to buy it, but we're not using you. You know, they Google me, and they find out my connection. They see the videos, they see the book, they see the whole connection to the aliens, and scares the bejesus out of them. So they can't run away fast enough. So I'm struggling financially, you know, and I'm not well enough to make a living by going around lecturing like this either. So I'm stuck between a rock and a hard place. So I got a little pissy with my guys, and I said, you know, that sounds really nice, but I can't go because I don't have the money, and this is why. And that was the end of it. They didn't even respond. So at some point, and I don't know time-wise but maybe a week it was, or 2 weeks, I'm not sure. But it was sometime in August, I believe, of 2017, when I was falling asleep at night, and I was focused my thoughts. Before I fall asleep, I've always trained myself to go to my happy place, which is to go think about my Creator and think about oneness and fall asleep in a high level of high vibration. And I was doing that, and I was just about to fall asleep when all of a sudden, you know, they give you this screen, if you've heard me talk before, or any contactees, they put a screen in front of your eyes. And it just encompasses your whole vision for the most part. They've done it while I've been driving. They once did it while I was driving, and so you can actually kind of see around it or through it, but it's like having a movie open up right in front of your eyes. So I was falling asleep, and they opened up this vision, and of all things, I was in a casino. I was sitting at my favorite video poker machine. Yes, and so, which was really weird. So I'm sitting at a game that's called hot roll poker. And I'm just going to take a second to explain it to you because it's relevant. So in hot roll poker, it's 5-card draw poker. So you're dealt a hand, and if you're playing 3 hands or 5 hands or 10 hands, you have your choice. I always just play 3 because I'm poor and I can't afford to play any like I used to. So I play 3 for quarters. So whatever you get dealt on that hand shows up on the other hands. And then another feature of this game is that at random times throughout the game, dice come out, and that will multiply your winnings. So the dice will roll either snake eyes 2 or up to 12, and that'll be what you win. So if you win $1,000 and it rolls out a 12, you get $12,000. You don't see that very often, but that's how it works. So I'm all of a sudden seeing this video poker game in front of me, just like I'm in the casino. And I don't think anything of it. I'm used to weird stuff, and I'm just like, okay. And I get dealt. The game kicks in, and it deals me a royal, which is what you always want to see as a gambler. You want to see yourself get dealt a royal. And it's in spades, and I'm looking at it, and I hear this voice, and I don't know who this is. I've not heard this woman before. She had the sweetest voice, but she was not my regular communicators. And she said to me, "Do you like this?" And I said, "Sure, yes." And she said, "What would you change?" And I said, "Well, it should be hearts." So it instantly was changed to hearts. And then the dice start coming out, and she freezes them, and she says, "What would you like?" And I say, and I don't know why I said this, I didn't say a 12. I said, "At least a 9. And I don't get to see what comes out. I fall asleep. I just pass out, and I don't remember the rest. I don't see the rest of it. In the morning, I think about it, but I don't even mention it to Jim. I don't mention it to anybody. It's one of those weird things that happens, and I just get on with things. 2 nights later, not that night, but then the next night happens again. I'm falling asleep, same thing, only this time I get dealt the royal, get it dealt in hearts. And same voice, she goes, "Do you like this?" And I said, "Yeah." And she said, "What would you change?" I said, it's good. And she goes, and then the dice come out, same thing, freezes it, "What would you like?" I say, "At least a 9. So you know where this is going, right? So the next week, my girlfriend, she calls me, and she's like, "I have Friday off, let's go to the casino." I say, "Sure." So we go to the casino. I'm not thinking about the vision, not at all, not thinking about it. When we get to the casino, this guy opens the door for us, and holds it open. As we walk through, he says, "Good morning, ladies. Are you here to bring them to their knees?" And my girlfriend laughs and says, "Yeah, right." And I hear myself say, "I'm not leaving here with less than 20 grand. And I was embarrassed that I said that. I didn't say that. I don't know who said that, but it came out of my mouth. But it came out real softly. I don't know if anybody even heard me. But I was embarrassed by that and a little bit baffled by it, because I don't play big stakes. So we walk in, and we always go into the side entrance, into the no smoking area. Don't go into the main part of the casino ever, smoky part. So we walk in, and there's that game, that machine. There's only one of them, and it's empty, it's open, so I sit down to play it. And I'm playing it, and it's not winning. So at one point, I'm looking back over my shoulder and thinking, where am I going to move? I'm going to move to a different machine. And the guy next to me makes this funny grunty sound. And I turn to see what he's looking at, and he's looking at what's going on, and he's looking at my machine, and I turn to look at it, and sure enough, there's the royal dealt to me in hearts. And I'm looking at it, and that's when I remember the vision. And I'm like, oh, that's what this was about. And it's like, how could I not have thought of that? But then before I can go, is the dice going to come out too? The dice were coming out, and I was like, oh, God, it's going to be a 9. Sure enough, it was a 9, because I didn't think to ask for a 12, because I didn't know this was what was going to happen with it. So I ended up winning $27,000 playing quarters. I played 3 hands, and so each hand paid $9,000 times 3, so got paid $27,000. I took $25,000 in a check and $2,000 in cash. And I was still under some strange influence, because I got up with that $2,000 and I walked back to High Rollers. And I had never been to High Rollers before in this casino. I don't play in High Rollers usually. And so this casino was under construction at the time, and you had to walk this, and I don't walk very good, but I had to walk all the way back through there, and sat down in High Rollers, sat down at a machine, $5 machine, which I never play, but that's what I played that day, and instantly got a $20,000 jackpot. Well, so I started to get freaked out a little bit. It was kind of just, I don't know, it was just kind of spooky. And I texted my girlfriend, and she came to find me, and I said, you got to get me out of here. Now, I don't know, looking back, there's a lot of mistakes that I made. You know, I probably should have played the megabucks or something, or I should have, whatever, but I'm grateful for that. I walked out of the casino with $49,000 in cash that day, because I played while I was waiting for my friend. I think that was the amount that I was meant to get. It certainly was more than enough to allow me to go to Arizona. When we left right away, we had only been there about an hour and a half at most, I think. We weren't there very long at all. And as we left the casino, my friend Brenda was driving, and we weren't even a mile from the casino when I heard that sweet voiced lady, I don't know, I got to give her a name, but she said to me, "Now, can you go to Arizona for the winter?" And I said, "Is that what this is all about?" And she just laughed. She has this really pretty laugh, and she just giggled. And so, sure enough, I went to Arizona for the winter. And so the takeaway on that for me is there's support available at times if it's needed to assure completion of your mission. They wanted me in Arizona, and even my not having money wasn't going to keep me from not going. When they want you to do something or be somewhere or whatever, you do it. So they supplied me with the money to go there. I thought that I was going down to write a book. I thought I was going to write a book about what I've gone through since the first book came out, because that story, in my mind, is way more amazing than the story I tell in the first book. But that's not what they wanted me down there for. First of all, they wanted me down there alone. Jim drove me down, and then he flew back to Wisconsin. He couldn't stay. And that felt right to me at the time. I went down with just my dog, my Pookie, went with me, and I was going to be there. I don't remember if I was there for 2 months or 3 months. And I invited 4 friends to come down to visit me, because I thought, well, I'm going to be down there alone, all this time. First friend said she couldn't make it, she couldn't get off work. Second friend said, it doesn't resonate with me, it doesn't feel right. And by the time she said that, I was like, yeah, that's right. Then I was wishing I wouldn't have invited the other 2. But I knew that was not going to be a problem because the third person, she was in Canada and she just couldn't afford to fly down there. It was over the holidays, and I said, no problem, no problem. And again, it just felt right. Not that I don't love my friends and want to see them, but just didn't feel right. The fourth one was interesting. The fourth friend was in California. She actually booked her flight, and she was coming to visit. And we were on the phone talking about it, and I follow Q. I don't know if you even know who Q is, but I follow Q. And that day I was kind of excited about it because Q had put up some news that was pretty exciting to me, and don't know what that is, that rumbling. And I shared with her, it was something to do with, I'm in Arkansas, I know, but it was something to do with the Clintons, and I was kind of excited about it, and it turns out that she didn't agree with my opinion there, and which was fine. And I said, that's fine, you know, that's fine, we disagree on this, and we don't have to talk about it. And she said, no. She said, I can never speak to you again. She hung up the phone. We'd been friends for 15 years or more, I don't know how long, and I'd never heard from her again. So that was interesting that that's how that one went. So I spent the winter alone in Arizona. I didn't hardly leave the house except to go get groceries, and then every day I would walk as best I could with my dog. My dog can't walk very good either, so I put him in a little stroller. And so I was very much there alone, and I was good with it. It was a healing time. But the reason they wanted me there was, yeah, I needed the rest, I needed the sunshine, I needed the downtime. But they wanted me there for my mission, for what I did at night. And I've always had another life that runs parallel to this life. We all do. You know, we're multidimensional, so we are having lots of lives going on at the same time. I'm not going to get in that whole conversation. But what I mean is I have another life running parallel to this life on this timeline. And that is the life that I have at night or when I'm sleeping or even sometimes when I'm not. It's what I would call probably my ET life. So they wanted me there because at night I was going out on these missions, and it was very intense. It was really intense. And I mean, I think I came home with post-traumatic stress disorder even. It was I have memories of it. I know that I'm still, well, even last night, I guess Jim said I don't know if I was screaming. I scream at night a lot now, and I wake myself up crying out. And, you know, what I went through down there, it was a battle. It felt very much like a military mission. And there's always been this military aspect to some of the goings-on with my guys. I wouldn't say military so much as, other than the mill labs that I've had, but otherwise with my guys who are benevolent beings, it does have a little more of a political feel to it than what you would think. It's kind of like the whole idea of them working with the angels. It's kind of the same thing. It's like, oh, really? But when you stop and look at what's going on, this whole mission to assist the planet, it makes sense. But I never put it together until just recently when a friend of mine emailed me and he said, would you say that Da is, because he follows Q also, is Da part of the Alliance? And I said, yeah, actually he is. He would have to be. And then I put it down in writing, and it's the first time I ever verbalized it, but you see, it has to be that the politics on the planet Earth are part of the Great Awakening on the planet. As a matter of fact, even Q calls it the Great Awakening because it all folds in together. Humanity's awakening on the planet is tied directly to the choices they make politically. And I'm going to get into an area that this is going to be, Jim said don't go there, but I am going to have to go there. The last election was, whether you're a supporter or not, I'm not going to get into that. I'm just going to say that the last election, of which, whatever, but the fact that humanity, the majority of the collective, voted for a president who is not a deep state player, who is not part of the old regime, the old control system, the fact that that happened showed that humanity was declaring their sovereignty. When you declare your sovereignty, that means you say, I do not want to be controlled anymore. I do not agree anymore with being a victim. And that's exactly what happened. And I'm not talking politically, I'm just talking, and I'm not talking about the person. I'm just talking that the collective in the United States made the decision, and it's happening around the world, in Germany and France and all the other countries, or Australia, they are rebelling against the control system of the old that has come down through the ages. It goes way back. Humanity has allowed themselves to be controlled through their passiveness, through their just allowing themselves to not get involved and just to kind of go along with whatever you're told to do. By the Great Awakening, it means you start to think for yourself, and you start to question things, and you no longer are willing to settle for someone else making the decisions for you, and you don't want to be a slave anymore. You don't want to work your whole life to have the elite take it from you. So that's what happened. So that's why the politics actually folds into the whole awakening on the planet. And that's why my guys were always, they would keep track of what was going on, and they would comment on what was going on politically in the country. There have been other opportunities for America to make that decision, and one of the most biggest ones was, of course, Kennedy. And we saw what happened to him, because he would have freed humanity also. It just can start like that as a snowball. But the deep state uses fear, and when they assassinated him, and then his brother and Martin Luther King, and that instilled a lot of fear in humanity, and it put us in our place, at least according to them. They give you that fear, so you don't want to. You just go back to living your life, going to your 9-to-5 job and just settling for whatever. Kennedy would have brought great changes, and those changes in our economy, going to the gold standard and taking down the Fed and all the other parts of that, that's all part of the awakening process, giving power back to you, the people, and taking it out of the hands of the controllers. And that's just plays into the whole system. So, where am I at here? When I was in Arizona, after I had gone through all those battles that night and that horrible stuff, I was getting ready to leave, and Jim was coming down to drive me back. And one day Da said to me, out of the blue, he said, Sherry, the world you are residing in is most likened to a computer simulated program. And I thought, yeah? Why are you telling me that? I already know that. So I pondered that for a really long time, because I've always known that the world is an illusion. It's a dream world. We're not really living. It's a dream world. So I thought that was interesting that he said that. And then I noticed that I started hearing that. Greg Braden talks about it, did a whole lecture series on Gaia. And there's a lot of people starting to talk about how we're in a computer. I think even the guy with the Tesla, what's that guy? He talks about how we are part of a computer reality. And the more I thought about it, because I knew they don't tell me anything just randomly. There's a reason why, so I was meant to think about it, and I did. And as I thought about it, I realized, I started to think of it in terms of us being here in a computer, like I just visited my grandson, and he plays video games where he takes on an avatar. And he's sitting in his chair, and he's playing as that avatar on the screen. And when I think of it in terms of that is what's going on here. We have what we call our higher self, or our true self, our divine self, or whatever. That is like him sitting in the chair, watching the avatar playing on the screen and facing all the challenges that are going on, and kind of sending in, influencing it, but allowing the avatar to have the experience in the game. And that's what's going on here. This world is a game world. And I've always, in my presentations, I always say that reality, Einstein said reality is merely an illusion, albeit a very persistent one, and that's absolutely true. But I kind of like the computer simulated program even more, because I think that is exactly what's going on here. It certainly seems to me that it pertains to my life anyway, because I most definitely have Da up there, sitting in the chair watching and influencing and causing me to go this way and not that way, kind of thing. And I think we all have that to some extent. I'm just not sure that everybody is aware of it to the extent that I am. But certainly there are those who know more than I do about this, but that's just speaking for me. So I'm going to go on to my next story, which I threw in here also because I like it. This is all about me, you know. So I just wanted to tell the stories that, I like all my stories, but this is one that I don't think I've shared. This one is from 2006, I think. It was back when I was, before the book came out, before I had done that. I was still living kind of somewhat in the illusion. My dog and I would go for a walk every day. We'd walk at least 3 miles a day, usually 6 if I had time. So we were down on the road below my house walking. It's a really pretty road. You get a stream that goes up along the road here on this side with trees, and they canopy over to the hillside on this side where the trees grow up, and it just creates this canopy. It's just a beautiful road to walk on. I was out there walking on that road one morning, 7 o'clock in the morning, with my little 7-pound Maltese, and he walks for a while and trots along, and then I pick him up and carry him for a while, and then he walks again, and it was always just a really sweet time, very quiet. It was my time to commune. It was a meditative kind of a walk for me. I was always in communion with my Creator at that time. And I was doing that when I came around a bend, and up in the road ahead of me, quite a distance away, like at least a football field or more, it was quite a ways away, there was a family of wolves. And it was a father wolf, clearly it was a father wolf, and the baby wolf were playing. And the mother wolf, what I perceived to be the mother wolf, I know because she was medium-sized, she was sitting there watching them. And the father wolf was chasing the cub around, and I think they're called a cub, and just so cute. And I just stood there looking at them, and I just feeling love and gratitude for being able to see this. When all of a sudden, the mother, she noticed me, and she zeroed in on me, and right away the father turned to look, and just so fast, the mother and the baby ran off into the field toward the creek down below, into the trees. And the father, the big wolf, started coming toward me, and he looked just like that. He was coming for me and my dog. And I don't know, I was just in this state where I just had been feeling so much love, actually, honestly, and I didn't feel any fear whatsoever. I knew, I had a perception of what he was going to do. He was going to come, and when he got close enough to me, he was going to grab my dog and kill him first, and then maybe attack me, I didn't know. I picked up Pookie and held him in my arms, and as I did that, I felt this shield come down around me. It felt like a big plexiglass, really thick, and I felt totally protected. I turned my back to the wolf, and I hunched over to protect my dog as best I could, because he was going to get there, and he was going to jump up, and he was going to try to knock me down, or somehow I just knew he wanted to get to my dog. That's what I felt anyway. But I felt totally safe, and I just knew it was going to be okay, but I didn't know how that was going to be, except I had that shield come down, but I don't know that. But I didn't have time to think about it when all of a sudden there was this loud roaring sound. It didn't come in from the distance. It didn't slowly build. It was just all of a sudden right there. It sounded like a 747 was landing on the road or something. It was a very loud sound. I had no idea what it was. And so I had been hunched over my dog kind of as best I could, and I lifted my head up to see what in the world could be making that sound, when around the bend came this. It was a school bus. It was a cartoon school bus. It looks very much like the school bus on the slide. It had big balloon tires. It was bouncing off of the road. It was a cartoon school bus. And I started to laugh because it was so ridiculous as it came toward me. And driving the school bus was a school bus driver who I believe had an engineer cap on. And I was just laughing at it, and I was just watching him, and as he came by, as it got closer and closer to me, every millisecond, the school bus became more and more 3D. It became more real. So it was slowly transforming into a real bus. And I watched the school bus driver as he went by, and I swear he was like bouncing in the seat. And I think he had a corncob pipe out of his mouth, and I just watched him go by, and I just laughed. And then I remembered the wolf, and I turned to see what was going on with him. And he was almost right there, and he peeled off right in front of the school bus and ran down into the woods down below. So, didn't get attacked by the wolf that day, but had that magical experience of that cartoon school bus coming down the road. And I think about this, or I don't anymore so much, but I used to think about that for a few years afterwards. I thought about it quite often. It was one of those magical times, and I don't know why it showed up as a cartoon school bus. Sometimes I think they didn't have time to bring it into 3D reality, and they just did the best they could. Oh, Sherry's in trouble, we better, and let's do a school bus, okay, and there it is, cartoon. But the takeaway for me on that is that not only is our reality illusory in nature, but it is also malleable. And I use the word malleable because I feel like we are the architects of our reality. We have the power within us to control what we experience. And so whether that came from my guys, which is really just another aspect of me, or from myself, it just shows that we can create our reality however we want to. And I actually got a definition of malleable. Malleable is capable of being altered or controlled by outside forces or influences, having a capacity for adaptive change. And I like that because it gives the power back to us. And I do believe that that is the true nature of this reality. So from there I'm going to go to another story that kind of defines also how this reality is a malleable reality, and it also highlights how the life of a volunteer, I'm not sure, I mean maybe my friends don't have stories like this. I used to think that everybody had this kind of stuff happening in their life, but it turns out they don't. And since I've been in a relationship with Jim, who is very 3D at times, and he points out to me how weird I am, then it helps me to understand that because a lot of times I just thought everybody's life was like this, but it turns out that it's not. So the next one is an interesting story, and it's one that I did a video on. Adnan was actually kind enough to come to my house when he was up in my area, and we did a video about this. I was deathly sick that day, but we did it anyway because I wanted to get the word out there on chemtrails. And because I had been upset by the chemtrails from the moment I first learned of them, nothing throws you into the state of being a victim like being sprayed with poison. So I kept questioning and asking, why are we experiencing these chemtrails, and what's the higher purpose behind them? Because everything has a higher purpose, right? So this story starts with me again going on a walk with my dog, got in the car and drove to the trailhead and parked my car, and when I got out of the car, well, even as I was pulling up, I could clearly see that to the south side of the road, you could walk that direction or you could walk north. The trailhead, it crossed the road there. To the south, the sky was covered, crisscrossed with chemtrails, just like those, just a checkerboard, just thick with chemtrails. They stopped right at the road where I was parked. On the north side of the road, it was clear blue sky, not a cloud in the sky, just brilliant blue. It was just so defined that I got suspicious. I thought, okay, this is not natural, so there's something going on here. But I got out of the car, and of course I decided to walk north. I wasn't going to walk underneath the spraying, so I headed north. And the trail I was going to take goes straight for quite a distance, and then it curved to the right, and then it goes into a tunnel. And I usually walk up to the tunnel, which is about 1.5 miles or so, and then back again, so 3 miles. I just step onto the trail and start walking when I hear a plane coming in. And it's really loud. And I turn to look, and the plane is fairly low. It's a jet, and it just doesn't look right. It wasn't quite a cartoon, but it wasn't right either. But I watched it for a while, And it wasn't spraying anything, and I thought, okay. So I start walking down the trail, and it comes right overhead, and it starts spraying immediately over my head. And I stop walking, and I watch it, and it follows the trail that I'm about to walk, and it follows it, and it lays down a path of chemtrail right above the trail, even where the trail turns, and then it ends where it goes into the tunnel, and the jet just flies off. And I was like, what the hell? It laid down a path right under where I'm going to walk. And I just stood there, and I knew, okay, why is this going on? What does this mean? I had been asking and asking for answers and help to figure out what's with the chemtrails. And I knew that this was the answer, but I damned if I knew, other than it came to me, well, obviously, I'm creating this because I have a fear of chemtrails, and fear makes things like this happen. So, I did this. That was my conclusion, was that I did this. But I didn't know what to do about it. I couldn't walk anymore. I said I need to go home, so we got back in the car, and we went home. When I got home, I went to my Course in Miracles book, because that's where I usually could find my answers when I just didn't know how to deal with this. And I should have known. I've been a Course in Miracles teacher for a long time. But instead I sat down with my Course in Miracles book, and I was in my office, which I have never since and never before. That was the one and only time I did my Course in Miracles reading. I don't even know what the book was doing in the office, how it got there. But I just sat in the chair in there and read the book, opened it up randomly. And of course, it said that fear attracts. Fear will make a fearful projection. And so you project what you fear. And I don't have a fear of chemtrails, but I would get triggered with anger, and they disgust me. And so that fit. But the answer to it is, of course, unconditional love. Unconditional love, and seeing it, the truth of what it is. So the chemtrails are an illusion because they come from fear, and anything that comes from fear is not real. The only thing that is real comes from love. So the answer to the solution to chemtrails is to send love, is to see it through the eyes of truth, and to see the innocence in all of it, and know that everything is safe, everything is good, that there is nothing truly terrible taking place, not in truth. So I got that message, and as soon as I got it, I glanced out my window to the east, and of course, there's a jet coming toward the house spraying chemtrails. And I look at it, and I see it through different eyes. I see it as being something that's just part of the illusion. It's not real. And so what I did is I envisioned the pilot in that jet, and I envisioned the person who gave the orders to that pilot to spray those toxic fumes on the planet. And I just saw them as innocent and not knowing any better. I saw them for the truth of who they are, which is just like we are, divine creatures created out of love, and they're just lost in the illusion, and their fear has got the best of them. Otherwise they wouldn't be doing this. And so I just sent love to them. And forgiveness, which is not forgiveness like you're doing something wrong and so I forgive you, but forgiveness as in you don't know any better. And so I hold the truth for you. And so I did that, and when I opened my eyes, the chemtrail was gone. Not all the way back, but all the way back to where I had first seen the jet, when I first came into view. And the chemtrail that it had been spewing as it came toward my house was all gone. And I was very humbled by that. And it moved me a lot to have that happen, because it was so very real. And I didn't have time to think much of it, because out the window to the north, out of the office, I saw another plane coming, spewing out really thick chemtrail. Really, one of those really big, fat ones. You see them when they come, they're just ugly. And I stood up and I went to that window and I did the same thing, and I pictured the pilot, and this time it was a woman flying that jet. And I just sent love to her and acceptance, and saw her for the truth of who she was. And when I opened my eyes, the whole chemtrail was gone, and it had gone way back, way back, because I'm on a hill and you can see a long way, and that whole chemtrail was gone. And again, it was very humbling and it was very validating. And I didn't have to wait too long. It was probably about an hour later. I kept my ears open for another plane because I was excited now. I was going to bring down these chemtrails one at a time, you know. But another plane started coming from the south toward my house, so I went outside on my patio. And it was coming closer, and it was flying kind of low, and it was loud. And I just looked at it, and I did the same thing. I closed my eyes and stood out on the patio. And I became aware that the sound of the airplane flying over had suddenly stopped. And so I opened my eyes quick because it was just right overhead. And the plane was gone, and the chemtrails were gone. All the chemtrails were gone from my sky. My sky was blue, clear blue. And I got freaked out by that, I'll admit it. It creeped me out to have a jet that was so big and solid flying overhead suddenly just disappear. I ran around the house to make sure that it wasn't still there, and I just wasn't hearing it, that it was gone. But of course, I knew it wasn't there. It had just happened so fast. So the whole jet disappeared, all the chemtrail disappeared. And I did run in the house. I texted my girlfriend, and we talked a little bit. And of course, what I realized had happened was that I had altered myself into a higher timeline. So I was in a higher frequency where there was no chemtrails. And so that was the answer to the chemtrail thing, and that's why I needed to do that video. Since then, that video's been up, and I have gotten tons and tons and tons of emails from people around the world who have seen it, who have used the same technique, and they've been very successful with it. And it's not as hard as you think it is. The only thing is that you have to really understand and know that what you're seeing is an illusion, and that the person who's doing it truly does not know any better. They are acting out of fear. And fear is not real. Anything that comes from fear simply isn't real. So we only make it real because of our acceptance of it, because we join with them in the fear. So that's why the chemtrails are huge. They're nasty business, but that's the controllers of the planet use those to keep us in line and to keep us in fear. So it's a powerful tool if you can turn the tables on them, and instead of being triggered and getting angry when you see the chemtrails, instead it reminds you of the truth of who you are and the truth of who they are, and they hate that. So you send love to them, and that's the most powerful thing that you can do. And the chemtrails would stop if enough of us would know to do that. The chemtrails did stop for a while. Did you notice that? The Alliance took out the chemtrail operation, took it down probably 80 or 90%. And so we didn't have chemtrails almost for the entire month of July. They've started up again. Apparently they found a new facility, but I have no doubt that they'll take them out again, hopefully for good. It's nasty business. So the takeaway on that experience was that we, the collective, and individually are responsible for the world we experience. We can either make it through the projection of fear or create it by extending love. And that's the basic teachings of the Course in Miracles, and it's the basic teachings of my guys, the 3 groups of ETs that I work with who come from higher dimensions. They understand how our world works. So when I found the Course in Miracles, it resonated very strongly with me as to being the truth of what I had been taught as a child and all my life by the ETs, the higher dimensional ETs. So I'm a big proponent of the Course in Miracles, which is now, there's actually a new book that is more relevant to the times we're living in, these great times that we're living through, which is the Course of Love, which my study group, we've studied that, and we just love that book. It doesn't challenge you as much as the Course in Miracles does. It's a powerful, powerful book. I'm going to recommend it strongly to everyone.
Oh, I just wanted to thank you for mentioning Q, because I had a question to the universe. I kind of know who some of the people behind Q are, or what that is. Mm-hmm. But I prayed, for some reason, I want to know who is behind those people, or 3D people, just humans. And it just sent me, when I just asked the question, it sent so much love I just burst into tears.
Oh,
And it was off-planet beings or other
Yes.
dimensionals.
yes.
And I just,
Yeah, people
I
don't,
just-
they don't know that. If they knew that,
Yeah.
that's too much for a lot of people to know, but the whole operation, the whole thing has been divinely guided. And I know it's a hot topic because there's a lot of emotion involved with the politics and all that and with the players. But you have to look beyond the personality of the players and look at what's being accomplished. There is this battle going on, and it's fascinating. And I feel badly for those who are asleep and not even aware of what's playing out on the big screen of life, because they're missing out on this amazing, amazing thing. But then I also feel bad for those who are caught up in their anger. There's a lot of people who are really polarized by the whole political thing because of the personalities involved and all that. And that's too bad, because they're missing out on the real story of what's going on. But that's part of the awakening process as they come to understand that. Any other question? Yeah, you want to ask a question? Sure. Yeah, you got to go to the microphone. Otherwise, for the people listening to the video, yeah, very frustrating. Okay, that's fine. Okay. Oh, you're not going to flip through that whole thing. Okay. Okay.
You mentioned that you kind of selected your husband before coming here. Is that correct?
Yeah, it was done as a collective between them and me. It was mainly based on his DNA, because part of my mission for coming here, the first phase of my mission was to be part of the hybrid program. So he was chosen for that, and just for certain aspects of who he was. So yeah, they chose me. I've had a series of relationships throughout my life, and they dictated who, because they studied. What they told me is they wanted to study relationship love, and so I cut a deal with them. It's a complicated story, but I cut a deal with them that I would stay here and they would do that. I would allow them to do that. So they dictated who I was to be with each step of the way. The one that they were primarily interested in was the last one that I had with that guy back in the corner with Jim. I've been with him since the book came out, and it was critical. They were very, very pushy for me to get with him, and him with me, and they forced us into a relationship. I mean, it seemed somewhat organic, except that they forced me to go to the place where I was going to meet him that day. And it turns out I told them I didn't want to be in another relationship. I was worn out. I was tired. I was old, too old for all that. But it turns out, had I not been with him, I would not be here now. He has kept me alive through the attacks that have happened on me. And so, yeah, it was critical. And he has no fear. Being with me, he has seen and experienced things that most people would have a lot of trouble dealing with. But he has no fear. When those ETs come in, he's like, hey, he's all good with it. So, yeah.
The second thing I wanted to ask you about, you said I'm working with 3 groups. And they're light. They're in the light. They're good.
Yeah.
So, have you had contact with the dark?
Oh, yeah.
And there are they have beings as well, right?
Yeah, they're dark, unfortunately. I didn't want to believe that, actually. Like I said, I was quite naive when I came in. But yeah, I've encountered very dark forces. I've had, the men in black, which are not really ETs, they're more a construct. So I've had the men in black. They are the ones who warned me not to talk about, my life. When I did anyway, then so I have encountered, I guess I'm just going to say that probably none as fearful as our own military at the time. So the mill labs are quite awful. I've encountered the Draco, and they were at my house quite a bit, and there's different opinions as to, my opinion of them was that they came in and they did ask Jim and I if we would work with them, that they wanted to. There was a group of 5 of them, and they asked if we would work with them during this time of ascension, because they wanted to go from service to self to service to others. And we agreed to let them come in, and so they did come in and work with us doing Reiki and that sort of thing. Some have said that I was fooled and tricked because that's when the attacks on me happened. So I'm not sure. I mean, I can read energy and I can discern high and low energy. I'm not sure if I was fooled or not, how that went. But yeah, I've definitely encountered some pretty dark energy. Yeah.
And the other thing was, if I can find it, if you could just kind of expound a little more. I'm trying to get a hierarchy here. I'm trying to figure out, I heard you mention creator.
Yeah.
But I also heard you mention higher self.
Mm-hmm.
Is that one and the same?
We are all the creator. We are all one with the creator. My guys taught me from the time I was very little what they call the 3 important things to know. And the number 1 most important thing to know is that we are all one with the creator. So you refer to the creator, which is like the prime creator. There is this source, this energy that creates life and extends life through love and is throughout the multiverse. And that is all life. All life that is of love is the creator. Anything that is not the creator or of love is not real. It's part of the illusion. So this world is an illusion. Anything that's of form and can suffer, like you do on this planet, you suffer with sickness, with your body, with everything. That's all built out of fear. That's all that our creator did not create our bodies. We created our bodies to have the experience of separation. We wanted to experience being separate from ourself and knowing ourselves as other than just pure love. And so we created separation. We broke free, and out of that came a body, because we projected that to really solidify, if you use that word, to solidify and make real the idea that we are separate. Because there it appears that you are standing there as a separate person from me. And there are people sitting out there who appear to be separate because it fulfills the illusion. It makes it very real to us. It's not real. You're a part of me. We're all a part. We're all one. But yeah, so there, as far as a hierarchy, there is no hierarchy. There just is oneness. And we just have these individual dreams going on because we're eternal beings. Time doesn't exist, but we just need to entertain ourselves. We're just experiencing different aspects of who we are through the challenges of being a 3-dimensional being, for instance, on this planet. You all came here to begin with because you wanted to know yourself as who you are when you are confronted with fear and confronted with suffering. And that's why it's here, is because you asked for that. And so that's what you got.
And from there we have higher self, we have aliens, and then angels. Separate entities?
Well, again, separate only in the illusion.
Okay.
You know, so that's why I don't know why. Well, I was kind of a 3D person myself, before I awakened to my experiences, and even once I awakened to my experiences and my connection with my guys, you still, if you're in this world, it's really hard to live on a 5 or 6D level. That's where we're going right now. But you can remember that. I would remember what it was like before I came here, and oneness. I can remember all that, but you still have to live in this world of separation. You still have to make the money to pay for the house, to pay for the food. You still have to go to the doctor because your body hurts you. So it keeps you really anchored in the illusion and in the game. Mm-hmm. And that's such a big distraction. That's why the whole control system on the planet is based on distraction. Look here, don't look there. It's what's playing out right now. The media is going to tell you what the truth is. No, don't look at over here what's really true. We're going to tell you what's true. We're going to tell you this is what's happening and this is who this person is. Don't look at who they really are and what's really happening. So yeah, it's just a big game, and you have to remember that. So there's no hierarchy. There's just, at the end of the day, and it doesn't happen when you die. That's the other thing. People think that when you die and leave this planet, you leave behind your body, and then you're going to have all the answers, and you're going to know the truth of who you are and all that. No, that the control system on this planet was so big and so deep and prevalent that even when you die, they trap you, and you were brought back through. That's why we all came in, to liberate the planet, to stop that from happening, because your soul is not progressing the way it was meant to. And when you originally agreed to come here, you came here to have the experience of separation. That's why the Earth humans are so fascinating. They're so fascinating to us because I would not be here. I would not have come here to experience separation. Why would I want to experience separation? It's painful. Why would I put myself through that? But you all, not you necessarily, but those who are the human souls on the planet, the native Earth humans, you chose that experience. I think you're incredibly brave. Or stupid, but no, no, I'm just kidding. I'm sorry. You're incredibly brave for doing that. I mean, who does that? This is a painful place to be, but you want to test yourself. You just want to experience something other than love and light. So now I know what that's like to be human. And it's exciting, it's interesting, but I don't want to do it again. So anyway, that's how I would answer that.
One last thought, and that is you mentioned, it sounded as if it was going to be foreboding and bad. What's going down?
Well, what's going down is humanity, the collective on planet Earth. Planet Earth said that she was going to ascend during this time of the Great Alignment. So there's been other times in the history of the planet where she could ascend and go into the higher frequencies, which is the natural evolution of all star systems, right, of all life. But she held back her ascension because the humans who resided on the planet were not of a high enough frequency. They were too based in fear. So they were not high enough frequency to go with her into fifth dimension, fifth density. So she's held that back for eons. In 1945, when you detonated the atomic bomb, she said, okay, I'm moving on with or without my children. And that's when we knew that something had to be done to rescue, if we could, or assist the Earth souls who had been trapped here, because the deck had been stacked against you. The control system had come in long, long time ago and not allowed you to experience the awakening like you were meant to, because you've been kept controlled and distracted. So, now I forgot the question. What was the question? What? Oh yeah, what's going to happen? So yeah, so nobody, so now the human collective, the big thing was we didn't have the higher frequency on the planet that we needed. When I came in 1950, almost none of the souls were ready to ascend. Okay, by the time the harmonic convergence happened in 1987, that was huge. The harmonic convergence was huge. It was just huge what happened that day. This great awakening was triggered. And it's been happening ever since. And the starseeds and the light workers and the volunteers have been here pulling the frequency up just by being who they are. And it pulls everybody up. And so it's up to the collective, though. But when the collective at the last election made the choice they made, and I'm sorry, but even Da came in 3 days before the election and told me, and he said, it will be Trump. I almost went to my knees. And it was like, oh, no, no, no. But then I thought about the alternative, and then I thought, but it's a no-win situation. Well, I didn't know. I didn't have an inside track, but he was very excited. And because it was someone outside of the control system that we had normally had, and that was the collective making that decision. So that was a huge moment on the planet as far as the awakening. Now they're watching it as it goes, and in the Q thing to try to trigger people and awaken them. So everybody individually will make the choice if they're going to awaken or not. What I mean by awaken is get your frequency up to the point where you can go with the planet into the fifth density. And that's what is happening now. I mean, there's chaos out there because everything is being held up to the light. And Da had told me that when he came in 2010. Everything will be held up to the light. And he said, anything that is not based in love is going to crumble. Governments will fall, he said. Financial systems, banks, companies, leaders of the world, leaders of corporations. Everything and everyone will be shown for what they are. And that's certainly what's coming out. All of the dark, nasty business that's been going on is a light's being shined on it. And so that's what's happening. So how that's going to play out will be up to the collective. We can go easy or we can go hard. Some will make it, some won't. But even those who don't make it, it's fine, because all that means is that they'll continue on their journey on another 3D planet. But it probably won't be one of a control system like this one. They will be free to wake up and remember and get back on the cycle back home. So it'll be good. It's going to be amazing. I think it's going to be awesome. However it plays out, I'm all for it. It's better than what's going on. So, okay? I think that's it. Okay, thank you very much.